The book of 1 Peter. Some scholars call 1 Peter the Job of the New Testament epistles. The term suffering occurs 18 times, more than in any other letter in the New Testament. In distinct contrast, the word glory occurs around 8 times, when Peter employs the phrase born again from the incorruptible seed. He displays his own new, unflinching spirituality, meaning Peter will never again deny Christ. He was born again. The theme of the epistle could be the sufferings of Christ followed by glory. Christians are called to walk according to this same pattern in a very hostile world. The language style of the epistle is similar to Leviticus and very Jewish in the overall exposition. The recipients are most likely Jewish Christians. As Nero was unleashing persecution on Christians, the Apostle Peter, as a church leader at large, responded with a Christological and pastoral epistle, intended to help Christians who were facing various trials. But these would evolve into fiery tribulations, as Nero was preparing to persecute the church to the utmost. As a result, Peter refers believers to prophecies of Christ's suffering in the Old Testament and his recent passion and crucifixion. Believers were steadfastly drawing nearer to Christ, assuring their spiritual survival. Peter begins by encouraging the tried believers first with a Trinitarian blessing, and then with a doxology. In the Trinitarian blessing, 3 things are incorporated. The saints are chosen by the Father, sanctified by the Spirit, and sprinkled by the blood of Christ. Sprinkling by the blood of Christ is an allusion to the sprinkling of blood at the ratification of the Mosaic covenant. Peter presents tribulations as faith being tested. Passing the test meant that they were saved. When Christ will be revealed, believers will receive praise, glory, and honor for enduring trials. Believers loved Christ and trusted him in the midst of tribulation, although they did not see him. As these believers were tried, they were identifying with the sufferings of the Messiah, which had been the focused pursuit of the Old Testament prophets. Moreover, even the angels longed to see how the Messiah was going to endure tribulations. Holiness was vital for survival in these circumstances. Believers are reminded to honor the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect, by holy living. Christ not only suffered, but also died and was then glorified. So, the same glory awaited them. Why was their faith tested? The trials of their faith helped them withstand the rampant debauchery around them, as they strived to maintain good relationships at home, with authorities, and in relation to various masters. Christ is the living stone, and precious before God and the believers, meaning he is alive and active for the spiritual stability of the faithful in an extremely dangerous environment. He is also the cornerstone. This is a reference to the temple, meaning that everything should point back to him. Peter quotes Isaiah 53 as a way to remind the believers to follow Christ's example of receiving sufferings from the hand of God, as Christ did on the cross. He is also the shepherd and overseer of their soul, meaning he knows precisely what they go through, and he knows how to help and comfort them. The epistle also addresses ministers, and Peter reminds them that they are under-shepherds, as Christ is the chief shepherd who will reward their faithful service. Peter also bluntly states that as Christ suffered in the body for us, we should cease living in bodily sin. The churches he addresses faced sin issues, so perhaps the persecution was allowed as a means of sanctification. As these believers understood their participation in the sufferings of Christ, Peter pronounced that the Spirit of the glory of God rests on them. This is huge. Application. The sufferings of Christ are sacred ground. The sufferings of believers are also sacred ground because of Christ who is in them, suffering with them. Today, many pastors and believers talk about the persecution and sufferings of the church here in the U.S. as if they are watching a dramatic movie. Persecution and sufferings are so arduous that only Christ can help His church to go through them. May the Lord spare us.